So
Here we go.
how you doing today?
Doing good. Good to
Good.
be here with you today.
What are we going to talk about?
Well, Larry and I were discussing upstairs a little bit about trying to communicate with young people and to make things relevant for them. And he spent some time early this morning with some bullets that we're going to be going through, and he's going to have a chance to talk about those ideas and thoughts to make it relevant to you. I would like to start off with just a short paragraph of Sister Millie's from Sister Millie's book in 1957 of April. And this is the Blessed Mother talking to Sister Millie. And Our Lady says to her, "I wish to gather about me a soldier, a valiant bearer of the torch, an army of brave lovers, who as my torch-bearers will enkindle the fire of divine love in the souls of men. Only those who are strong in love can become my soldiers and bear it aloft, not the sword of destruction, but the sword of fire, a flaming torch of God's love and charity." So, at Sister Millie, that something to warm us up. But I'm going to we're going to be talking about some of the bullets that Larry wrote down early this morning when he got up. Satisfaction with our lives. The call to purity is the cure.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that. People are not satisfied. I see you got statistics. 47% of Americans report being satisfied. 78% say they're somewhat satisfied. So what's going on here with this?
It means 47% are satisfied with their lot in life right now, and 53% are not, genuinely. And when they slid the scale to the somewhat satisfied, they were able to get more people in. But even in that somewhat satisfied marking, there were a lot of people who were saying, but this is really bad.
Okay, you got a statement here I think is very, Larry says, across the board, people who report having strong religious beliefs, whatever they are, were found to be in these two groups of satisfied or somewhat satisfied. So if somebody had an underpinning
of religion in their life, they had more of a tendency to report being satisfied.
And those that didn't?
Were in the 53% that were grumbly and mumbly, and they want to say that God is a make-believe item for fools.
Well, is he a make-believe item for fools? Or?
I don't believe so. I know he's not.
So why do you say that?
Because this is what they're saying. This is what their belief is.
No, I'm saying, but you're saying that people, regardless if they believe God exists, have a much better life or more calm sense.
Well, of course, yeah, that goes with it. So the 47% who reported being satisfied, they all had across the board a common denominator in their belief system as part of their group was that religion was a factor in their life, that they practiced some form of religion or the reported being of some named religion, whether even that just be a general Christian.
Then why are the other people missing out on this? Or
because they choose to walk away from it. They say it's all fiction, God doesn't exist because they're too educated. They say religion is just for dumb people.
Okay, you write down here, the answer may lie in Our Lady's call to purity and all of the related areas of our lives that need addressing before we spiral out of control as a community of people, much less an entire country or world to contend with. So what are you saying here, basically?
Our Lady's call to purity, she's asking us to stand up and take notice of things and stand up for ourselves. Don't sit there and try to measure yourself against other people or what somebody's posted on their Facebook page or, that's out of date now. So on their TikTok or whatever channel that they're using to promote themselves and boast about their lives, don't fall into that. I need you to stand up for what is right.
Okay. See, another comment you made in here was that most people, when I think of purity, they think of a sexual act.
Well, they think of their growing That's the first thing they think about because it's the first thing a baby touches in their awareness.
Yeah, your
schedule.
friend forever. Yeah,
Right. It's like, with purity, with the word, everyone wants to go to that segment of purity as like, oh, geez, now you're going to come after me about that. Geez, where are you going to stop? And that's not it. Purity is far more than that.
Tell me a little bit of how purity would really define itself in terms of a common everyday.
Purity is about how you go about living your life. Where do you put the importance? Where do you put your purposeful intent throughout your day? Are you doing this just because this is going to make you feel good, or because it's going to make you feel good and it's going to help someone else along the way, or your focus is on the good side of the meter and not just trying to skate by and get something over on somebody.
So purity encompasses more of a sense of love for maybe someone else, or
and a characterization. I'd say a championing of yourself, because if you believe in yourself and you want to think good things for yourself, hopefully you wouldn't be going to a bad set of decisions.
Sure.
And making bad choices, because that might be good for you, and some people may say, hey, good for me, bad for you. Well, I don't think that's a good way to go through a mutual existence.
You write here, Larry, purity would require at least an attempt at gathering knowledge before taking action to destroy something you see as bad. Did any of these protesters bother to look at the full history, the ones that were protesting in Israel, about what was going on was bad or good? But you're saying that knowledge is a key.
They have no concept of what they're talking about. Most of those people you talked about, the Israeli protesters, there was one news person went out on the street, interviewed, I think it was 30 people or whatever, and showed them a map and said, where's the Gaza Strip? There was only 2 people out of 30
who it was
that were able to sit there and study it and say, it's in here somewhere.
And they were protesting anyway.
Yeah, but they didn't know where the Gaza Strip was. They just said the Jews are bad.
So it makes sense if you're going to take a position, you should do the proper research, have the knowledge, common sense, and apply it to at least know where the place is that you're talking about.
Yeah, I would think that would be part of the frame of mind that would go with it, but that is not the way it is.
Why is that?
Because people they're getting lazy. Well, they've been lazy, and they let the internet and the TikTok voices declare themselves in their heads. So they're giving these phantom voices out here, people expressing other views. They're accepting their views and helping to promote these things without looking into the facts and having knowledge to express in these things. And it's great to get up and say what you feel, but have your facts straight.
So purity is also approaching and wanting to develop or understand the truth.
Correct. You need to have understanding. You need to have some basis in why is this decision being made. I wrote about in there this morning, there was an old theorem in decision-making and policy-making called Chesterton's fence.
Yes, please.
That we'd studied back in school and afterward and employed it a number of times in my life. And Chesterton's fence basically says, don't tear down a fence until you understand why it was put up in the first place.
Okay.
And so a lot of times I think it started off from there was a rock wall in a field. And somebody put it up, and a new landowner came along, wanted to tear it all down. And one guy says, I wouldn't do that, but the guy did it anyway. And I forget what happened, but something bad happened. I don't know if animals got in and ate all his crops or something like that, but it was a bad outcome for the guy. And so it led to this theorem, make sure you know why something was put there by your civilizations.
That makes sense.
They did it for a reason.
Right.
So by you coming in and saying, oh, you're going to tear it all out of there, it kind of shows disregard for what they learned and you haven't fully realized at this point. So you could have a real, like, oh, shit moment.
So,
if you tear something down.
So this is purity, too.
It's a purity. It's put in the work, do the work, come to a real conclusion on things, a fundamental conclusion that makes sense, helps who are engaged does the greatest good, and then move forward with that plan.
You know, we often hear people say, you know, God has, there's very special things for each and every one of us. But does every individual have something to bring to the table?
Everybody has something, and that's what Our Lady's asking for. Her call to purity is for us to use what we have in our little bag of goodies that we got, our little swag bag of talents. You know, God gives everybody something. They just have to figure it out, work with it, expand on it, you know, put a little fertilizer to it, you know, put a little attention to it, and let it grow into something. And Our Lady knows that, and she wants you to know that about you. Just because your hair is blonde and the other girl you're seeing in the picture, her hair is brunette, and you say, "Oh, I'm just tired of this, you know, color and all like that." No, be who you are. Be the best version of yourself you can be.
Okay.
And don't compare yourself to other people. Compare yourself to how you were yesterday, the day before that, this morning. Did you grow from this experience? Did something, you know, come out of something?
So simple, everyday things, every choices that come before us.
Sure, every knock is a boost.
And this is we deposit something good in the
Exactly.
divine economy. Then,
Well, it goes into our bank of good esteem and self-esteem.
okay,
That goes with that, because when you've done something and you've done it well, and you're proud enough to sign your name to that work, and people will come by and say, "Wow, you know, Molly and Ted, boy, they did a really good job."
Yeah.
Man, even just how they redid their facade of their house or something like this. You know, they probably had their heart on something, but if it was too much against the design of a neighbor's house, it'd be too competing. You know, they found it in their heart to change things a little bit, so it became a more beautiful presence rather than a contending, you know, competitive. And you can do that, and people say, "Wow, that little change just really made the neighborhood."
I would like your thoughts on this. Father Solanus, there's many stories about him that a mother came to see Father Solanus, and she had her son, and her son was mentally retarded, her IQ was. And so Father Solanus looked at, and she wanted Father Solanus, you know, perhaps can you heal my son, or you know, make him smart or whatever. And so Father Solanus talks to the little guy, and he turns to the mother, and Father Solanus says, "He's fine."
Yeah, what's wrong with you? That's right.
You knew he was.
Well, but no, that's what I would say. The kid's fine. What's wrong with you? Let's talk about you.
So this young boy had the love in his heart, and Father Solanus could see it, and he was doing what God had him to do in this life, right?
He was probably pretty good at it too.
I bet he was.
Pretty pure.
Right.
You know, and that's what your day is supposed to be, and that's how living a life of purity is what it's calling for.
So we take it purity to perfection or some sexual act, and we're limiting ourselves.
Our mindset is it always drives it right into the gutter. When you think of purity, it's always coming down to some form of sex act or something like that, or some sort of pornographic persuasion, because that's where the mentality is.
Right. And it's
everyone out there knows that.
Right. The internet's full of
77% of everything that's downloaded over the internet is porn.
Yeah.
77% of all material downloaded over the internet is porn.
Well, I think what they're trying to do is to take the act of human sexuality and of procreation and turn it into recreation, and then to also tell people that that's what you want to strive for.
Oh, if you can't do it then you're bad.
Then you're not a man. You know
Right.
what I mean? You have to, or you're not a woman, or
Right.
So we're being shortchanged by.
You're being displaced because the AI world and the other girlfriends and boyfriends are going to be coming out of these AI bots, and they've talked about it, and they're going to have interpersonal relationships with a computer chip.
You kidding me?
No, it's happening right now. People identify with their bot girlfriends or their AI bots and things like that. And they say, "Well, they know everything about me."
They know everything about it. So there's They're relating to
There's so much to know. Tell me.
They're relating to electronic friends.
No, because they can't have interpersonal relationships because they're too intimidated by the presence of another person in their dialogue.
How can we correct this, Larry? How can we reach out to people that are made in the image and likeness of God and take them? What can we possibly say or do to?
Well, stop it. Try to cut down the addictions. We talked about that. You have an addiction to goofy stuff on the internet. It's like one thing just starts you off on a whole, possum chase through the woods, and the guy is smart, but he's following some crazy streams at night. He says, "Man, I was watching this thing last night." I said, "I really don't want to know about it."
I was watching the news. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
He doesn't know what CBS even means anymore. which I would watch them.
Yeah,
anyway.
I watch them anyways.
Right.
I mean, it's where do you get your news? Breitbart, you said, or something?
Well, there's other news services. I think it's kind of better to go abroad and look back at the continent and try to look at it from inside out, because the fix is basically in on the mindset. Either you're part of the 53% or the 47%. And the 53% that aren't happy.
Right.
Well,
I will give you this. I spent a lot more time reading than I do going through the internet, but
that's true.
But he did see me doing these things, and there's times I said, I'll be on it an hour and a half, like thumbing through, and I'm thinking, this is crazy. I mean, I just wasted an hour and a half, and dizzying through a bunch of stuff. Although I do look at the fights, the Mike Tyson fights or different things like that, but it's,
yeah, I think Mike Tyson's fought in over 25 years.
Yeah, but I'm just catching up. Please give me a break. But I'm saying if somebody like me can get swept up into this, I can only imagine with the
with kids who really don't have anything as far as duties and responsibilities that they have to attend to. It's but they make their entire life is out of this, and their whole ideology about themselves is all set up in these TikTok frames and things like that. And I'm not going against the use of TikTok and things like that. I'm questioning the content and the
proper application
and the application of the technology. Sure. Is there a better way to use this that doesn't put you or your friends or your viewers into a situation where they feel insecure even more than they already are? Because their insecurity right now is at an all-time high.
Why is that? What's happening with the young people that they feel so insecure?
They don't feel any self-esteem, and any self-esteem it can always be taken away by the next post and the number of clicks or comments that come off of that. They're taking these things to heart,
right? And
they're coming with community formation rather than solid formations coming from their family. And those values.
So they if somebody snubs them on the internet, they take that.
Oh yeah, they've committed suicide over it.
They've what? Committed
suicide. Yeah, the internet bullying and stuff like that. Yeah, the boys and girls are killing themselves. There's one boy, I forget, he was a pretty clean-cut kid, but I guess somebody went after him, wanted to attack him, so they went after his sexual identity. They said like there was something in there about him being a sexual predator or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, didn't have to be true, but the kid started wearing it. He started freaking out. The kid freaked out and he killed himself.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But to go that
young
far,
man killed himself.
Dear God.
Girls are doing it, right and left. The suicide rates are, I believe, they have to be at an all-time high. I was asking. It's just not reported. Died suddenly. People are giving up. They're sad and they're insecure, and they say, I can never measure up. I can never be that beautiful. Why should I try?
Well, the statistics that you were stating, that the people that have a sense that God exists, however they view that, have a more stable sense of who they are and more balance. But that doesn't necessarily, I've known people with a great deal of faith that attempted suicide. Some of them completed it. However, they were taking a Prozac, and it does state on the bottle Prozac that this, under certain conditions of personality, this stuff can work in reverse.
Oh, sure.
It's almost like they're in a fugue state. In other words, they're not. They might think they're in a dream state, and then they commit the act, and they're thinking it's not a dream. You know what I mean?
This is for keeps.
This is for keeps, and they wake up in heaven thinking, how did I get here? But wherever. But so this is tragic. Our Lady is calling the children to bear torch of love, of God's love, to other people, bring the good news. I would much rather be suffering within that context of a torchbearer of love than suffer with a sense of there's no hope.
Well, sure. Would you in a hospital or in a trench someplace?
In the hospital.
Right. At least there's more help.
That's right. You got some
You stay in these communities, you falter, somebody else is going to be there to pull you up. It's like I talk about how a good OLaMan always needs to have two wingmen,
right,
who are ready to call BS on him when he falters. They're going to say, "Man, Alex, I have to call you out on BS on this thing. That thing you did last week, that ain't you, man. We got to talk about that." Then you can say, "Yeah, I know, I had a bad day and all like that," and you got to admit it. You got to let your wingman call BS on you. Whether you're part of the Brownwater Boys or something like that.
Well, because we always, all this comes down to our same old selfish selves. This is, so the greatest prayer is overcome the world, the devil, but the worst thing to overcome is ourselves. For some reason, we're on autopilot. And
we're the hardest ones to convince.
Why is that?
Because we want more.